Hey there, you guys. Jacqueline Jax from AVA Live Radio. So I am sitting here on a behind the music interview with Paddock Music. I'm excited about this because we finally
Me
get to
too.
connect. He's over in Michigan. I'm all the way here in Canada. We're enjoying our Memorial Day and we get to have a little chat now. So this is fun. And you have an
Right.
amazing song that everybody's been like really excited about.
Well,
And
thank you.
I love
Your
it.
guys' love on this has been awesome. Like
Oh,
honestly,
thanks.
it's been fantastic. Your support and all the love. Like when you see it on the shows and that, it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's really cool. I'm glad to hear it. So tell me about your story a little bit. Like, tell us about how you got started in music and where you're at, like, compared to now. Like, is this a new project for you? Is it part of a larger project, or where does the music sit?
Well, it's like I have always been into music. I mean, since I was a kid. I mean, I can seriously remember the first time putting a 45 record, and I think I was attracted to it because it said Casablanca on it, and I liked the
Yeah.
picture on the record, and it was Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss. And I heard that, and it was just like it lit me up. I was like, that's what I want to do, as a 5-year-old kid. And in my family, at that time, I had my mom, my dad, and my sister, and so they were all big influences. Like, we lived just outside Detroit. My dad worked in Detroit. My grandparents were in Detroit. So, like the 4 o'clock in the morning drives with my sister and I in the car going to, drop my dad off at work, and then my mom would drop us off to our grandparents in downtown Detroit. And so, I got like very early influences, like, from Motown um, and then like my sister with Elvis, and then my sister and my dad would always, they got in a record club and they would just always get these different music. So it's like, that's where I got into like Billy Joel and Elton John. And then Foreigner was another one for me. So at a young age, I'd sit there and put these records on, and I would try to emulate the singers. So honestly, like Lou Gramm from Foreigner, I use him for example. It's like he's got a very high voice, amazing range. So I would, sit there and try and emulate this. I can remember when I was in choir, I wanted to do Waiting for a Girl Like You, and my choir instructor's like, you can't do that because you're a well, I was a baritone actually, but I was like, watch me. It's like if somebody said, well, you can't do that, then I'm always like, yeah, I can. Let me try. So, then,
Yeah.
you know, then my sister, she's the one who got me hooked onto to Billy Idol. And that when you mentioned that the other day when the
So
song was
funny.
playing, about that he was on the show. My
Mm.
sister's down in Florida right now, getting my mom set to come back to Michigan, and she had missed the live. They watched it afterwards, but I had to give her a shout out on that because, like, to this day, Billy Idol comes in town, she goes to see him. I mean, she's a diehard Billy Idol fan.
Oh, no,
I'll
that's
have to see if
awesome.
I can send you a photo. I just saw it the other day. I was looking for my phone for something. It's a picture of me as a teenager. God awful photo, but I'm sitting there in my room, and next to me is this big photo on the wall, which was Billy Idol. So it was like, you know, that, that was my idol. But then
Yeah.
I got introduced into INXS, and that was just like a huge takeoff for me. And I was really big in Australia because I had a friend in Australia. So I, when I went down there as a teenager, I flew down by myself, 17 years old. My first plane flight was ever to Australia. And I got hooked on a band called Ice House. And the lead singer's name was Ivor Davies. And his big influence was David Bowie. And you can hear it when you listen to Ice House songs.
Yeah.
Um,
God, what a
so all
great
that. And then you
artist.
get into the 90s, and the 90s was just an explosion for me for music. I mean, it was, Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots
Yeah.
and then eventually the Foo Fighters. But then the real big takeoff for me was Dishwalla, and more specifically J.R. Richards, because I've always found in bands I've always connected with the lead singers. So when David Lee Roth left Van Halen, I didn't like Van Halen anymore. When Lou Gramm left Foreigner, I didn't like Foreigner anymore. It's kind of one of
Yeah.
those things. Um, and so I always was like really big into music, but I got married at a really young age, and we had kids and that. So at that time, I couldn't really follow much in music. I started learning how to play guitar, things like that. But then I eventually hooked on with garage band, and it was kind of more like the whole dad things and all that. Um, and then I got divorced kind of like, when the kids were still young or whatever. And when I did, I moved back to this side of town, and I had a lot of time on my hands. So I started dabbling and playing music and starting to play in a bunch of different Detroit area, rock bands. And one of them that I hooked in with was a bunch of guys. They were doing like hard rock, heavy metal, like Metallica and Chevelle and Godsmack, stuff like that. And again, it was a moment where a friend of mine, she's like, "You can't sing that kind of music," because everybody kind of, would hear me if I did karaoke. I was doing U2 or Billy Joel or
Yeah.
Billy Idol, whatever.
I love how
Um,
people always have opinions about what you can and can't do. You ever
I
notice that?
know, I
I have
know, and I'll tell you
never
what, but
ever had that, like where there is some opinion about music,
yeah,
especially when you're singing. Like, and it's the worst, right? Because you get up to try and sing and you're singing and you want to like go in a direction, or you know what you're capable of, but then there's always that one person that says, "You can't do that." And you're
yeah,
like, "Why not?"
that's the truth. But that's one of the things I've always done is like when I went to Australia, my mom and dad had said, no, wait another year or whatever. And I was like, no, I want to go now. And they're like, well, then pay for it yourself. Well, I got two paper routes and I worked as a busboy and I earned the money for
Yeah.
my ticket.
Good for
And,
you. Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
awesome.
I've kind of used that stuff like um, as motivation. And when I was with that hard rock band, that was kind of like my first taste into us actually writing original music and, and recording it. And it was basement recording, so it wasn't properly mixed or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's like I really wanted to keep doing it. And but then I had and I always did acoustic duo on the side. That was just something, fun to do and could do a different range of music. That way if I didn't want, if I wanted to change from the hard rock stuff, I could go sing Hotel California, do it with an acoustic guitarist or whatever.
You like all
Because
the
that's like,
songs that I love too. That's
oh,
amazing.
that's my
I
mom's
love
favorite
that,
song from
right?
anything.
Yeah, it's
That
so
and Stray
good.
Cat Strut.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's hysterical.
like, you know,
It's like we could just like list all the songs that we like and sit here and have like a sing along. We
oh, I know.
probably know every
We
word.
absolutely. It's like we should create a separate playlist, just like bounce songs off and see how
Just the
many.
great ones, right? Yeah. Oh, I
It'd be
want to
50
say hi
songs.
also to a couple people that joined the live stream. Hello, Shanidu. How you guys doing? Hey, Peter. Thanks, you guys. It's awesome, right? We're doing the behind the music. Well, we're trying to do the behind the music on video form as well, since we have this amazing technology. So I'm glad you guys are here.
That's awesome. There's a gentleman, and I won't get his name right. His first name I think is Snowdy. Um,
Snowdy.
I know he's a fan of your show. He's in the Netherlands.
Oh, wait, I think it's Peter. I think he's got like a couple because he likes your music. I know that he's hearting it up right
Yes,
now. We now have 730 hearts on Periscope, and it's Peter. He's sitting there.
that's
He's doing
fantastic. He is like
it.
so cool. He's so awesome. We were chatting on Facebook on Messenger the other night, um, and it's just amazing, like his support of like indie music and everything. And he's a really really nice guy. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty
Peter,
cool.
is
Like
that
that.
you? Were you chatting with him? I want to make sure I have the right person because I believe it is. I'm not sure because I think he's got another one that, like right now, he's signed in from Peter so I can see his face and stuff, but we'll have to see. And hey,
I
Chris,
couldn't
nice to
pronounce the name
see
if I
you.
tried.
I know. That's how I am too. I'm terrible with names. People have to send me sound bites and they never do. And so if there's a way to mess up a name, I will for sure find a way to mess up a name.
Yeah, that's for me. I'm like, I have a hard enough time talking sometimes, but but the, like so for the original music, so like for getting into the stuff that I've been doing now, I had a bad accident like about well now it's been 6 years, and it was a head injury, and I suffered a
Oh
traumatic
my
brain injury, and
gosh. No.
it messed up my speech, it messed up a lot of cognitive abilities
Yeah.
and everything, and so the neurologists and the doctors had really encouraged me um, to find something to do, and because I had worked like I'd always been doing music on the side, but I was always like in an office job. Well, all of a sudden I couldn't do any of these things anymore, and I don't have a lot of memories from that stuff. Good thing is I kept a journal all the time, so a lot of things that happened back then I either know from people telling me or I had it written down. But
Wow.
yeah, so the acoustics started helping me. It's like I really struggled with it for a while, but then 2015, J.R. Richards, it's like I always refer to J.R. Um, he had been a solo artist, like Dishwall had kind of disbanded back in 2005, but J.R. has always been writing music. He's done music for TV shows, and like they were on Charmed. They had a song that was on Smallville. Um, But I just was always like, one, his vocal range is amazing, and I always loved singing to his music, and his songwriting and lyrics and that just brilliant. So he was working on. I had met him at a show. We were friends on Facebook and would chat every once in a while. But he was working on two solo albums at the same time. One which was going to be an acoustic album of music he did when he was with Dishwalla, and he was writing a new original one. And, we were just chatting, and one time I just kind of threw it out there. I was like, well, if you ever need a backup vocalist or whatever, and, kind of like that, throw it out there, but, it's probably going to go, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And he comes back to me like about a week later or whatever. He's like, hey, man, I think that'd be really cool if you'd be interested in flying out here to Santa Barbara. And I'm like, what? So, and actually last week, I just posted last week because it was like 5 years to the day that I had put some cryptic post on Facebook, like, I'm going to be doing something really cool next month, but I can't tell anybody right now. And
But coronavirus obviously is in the way of every plan, right?
oh yeah.
I'm thinking, wait, coronavirus just stopped everything, right? It's just changed the way
Oh yeah, for
everybody's
sure.
doing everything.
That's the only good thing about, well, I mean, there's nothing good, but I mean, in trying to take advantage of the time of not being able to perform right now.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing, is just, sitting there working on putting the music out there and trying to fine tune and learn to use the internet and stuff like that more, because I mean, as you know, the music industry's changed.
Oh, so much. I was just,
So
right before this interview, I was just doing a podcast about the Joe Rogan thing, the $100 million they just put out for Joe Rogan's podcast, and how it's going to affect both podcasters, what we have in content, the availability, the advertising, the dollars, what it means for all podcasters, and what it means for indie artists too. And
yeah,
just thinking back, when this story started was about, I would say, 2 years ago, right? Originally started 2 years ago with Spotify making plans to move forward, both with artists but also in the podcasting field. And that cuts to last year when they made a $250 million investment in podcasting. They got all of our episodes, like everybody's episodes, moved over to Spotify at that point, because they bought Anchor and some other networks where all of our episodes were, essentially. So automatically everything moved over, and then all of a sudden advertisers and all kinds of different references started popping up. So the way things have changed and are changing continually every single day for both artists, podcasters, everybody creating this kind of content, anything audio, is tremendous.
oh yeah,
I'm wondering, what do you think? Like, you're independent, right? You're not with a label.
right, yeah,
Right.
just
So you
independent.
can distribute your music yourself. So do you use DistroKid? Do you use CD Baby?
I use
Or
DistroKid.
you do. So that, I
Yeah,
think DistroKid's one of the best platforms, but there are a lot of artists today that still don't know that they can distribute their own music, and they still pay people to do it for them and
yeah,
literally don't
no,
know,
it's I might not have known. I mean, that's the great thing about me being able to work with JR, is he's been so amazing. It's kind of cool. I mean, someone that I was just like, really was my biggest influence, like from the late 90s through
Yeah,
now, and then just the way that's evolved to, me singing backing vocals for him on his solo albums, and then him doing, JR now producing my stuff. But not only is he like, co-written with me and produced the music, but he has given me such amazing guidance in utilizing, you know, online. And I mean, he walked me through getting everything set up with DistroKid and,
that's
and
great.
ASCAP, because I had to register with
Yeah,
them. I
yeah.
always laugh saying that name, but people who don't know what it is are like, what did you just say? Um, but he's been my
Yeah,
guiding force, and like, I can message him and say, hey, I got this message about this thing. Does this look legit to you or whatever? And, be like, no, you're already, going through DistroKid and, setting up. And there's other things that he had advised me to set up with that, it's amazing. And, and he's still learning. I mean, he's relearning. I mean, he came from an age when they got signed to, a record label, and,
yeah.
when they put out Counting Blue Cars, and then it's
That's
evolved, and he's
exactly right.
utilized the online thing. It's just amazing what he does. If anybody has not heard J.R. Richards, or go check out his music too, because it's amazing and fantastic what he puts out there. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I'm always like big hype man for him, but for good reason.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think at one point or another, everybody that gets into the music business, you have to have somebody to ask, you know. I mean, I must answer, gosh, I must answer at least a couple dozen of these same questions every day, which is probably why I do so much podcasting about music business stuff, because I figure if one person's asking and then another person asks, why don't I just create a video on it and like put it out there? And that way I'm just like, here, go listen to this, you know? So that way I'm not copying and pasting everything, you know, moving forward constantly. But you have to. But that's been, I think, a benefit. Indie artists today, if we can get everybody to realize that they're not really competing with each other, it's knowledge is power, and together they
Yeah,
rise, you know. I think that's a big deal, and that's one big thing that I would love for everyone to
yeah.
constantly
It,
realize, you know, in
and
in
I've
this
seen there's
whole
stuff that's
big
come out
scheme of
there that I've
things.
looked at, and then when I think, because the algorithms on Facebook or whatever, it starts, other things start popping up, and
Yeah, they do.
you know,
So
I mean,
true.
it's kind of funny. I don't recall exactly, but I feel like it was something through Twitter was actually how I first came across, and I know that you're big on Twitter, but that was where I first came across AVA live music,
Oh,
um,
really? On Twitter?
and started
Cool.
catching on that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was through Twitter, and it might have been like if I don't know if it was when I was registering music or something like that, and then it puts that little side column of like other things that might be related to this or that you might like or whatever, and I clicked
Yeah.
on it. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I saw blonde hair and I was like, oh, hey, uh, but then I
It's the
started looking.
blonde
I'm like,
hairs.
well, this is awesome. And I started listening to the shows, and I kid you not, like I've been doing this thing for the last month where I've been putting up like long walks playlists, and I keep adding different songs, and I've already put I think 3 songs on there that I've discovered through you.
Oh, that's
So
so nice. I hear
yeah,
that all the time. That's why I know this is working, because like there isn't a person that doesn't work with us that doesn't gain, and they see their listenership go up, especially now that Spotify gives you insights. It's been very helpful, because before it was up to us to try and like find out how many listens a specific piece of music got on a show that had like maybe 10 other pieces of music, and it would be
yeah,
really difficult to like, you know, give you those numbers. And I'd be like, okay, we can give you the numbers, but the thing is that we don't know how many people, what we don't know is how many people listened all the way through. So like I can say this podcast got 25,000 plays or got 50,000 plays, but if you were like, you know, where in the podcast, I don't know, because we don't have the numbers of how many people stayed on past a certain time. That's what they don't give us. Not yet, anyway. I'm waiting for them
yeah.
to. But when Spotify started giving us numbers and we started being able to see that we could direct traffic from the podcast to a replay on Spotify, and then I started seeing all your numbers go up, I was like, oh, we got to make sure everybody's on Spotify so we can have some
Yeah.
kind of a real live visual about a replay. So, like, we see an episode go to 50,000, and then I see all of the people on that episode, you know, start getting replays, and they're going 10,000, 20,000, 25, 100,000 replays. And I'm like, there you go. It's that episode. And you know what I mean? So that's how we map
Oh
it right
yeah.
now, you know, until they get better with the insights.
It really is cool. I mean, honestly, like again, from listening to your show, and then more the involvement that I've had, like with you guys playing our music, and that I've like so I think I've got to up my Spotify game and learn how to use some of this stuff. And the metrics that are on there, like you go in there and you check, and it's like I can look and I can see. I'm like, holy crap! Like my song, like it's getting played in South Africa and
Yeah,
different
it's
places in Europe,
totally
and pop up in
crazy,
Russia,
right?
in
Yeah,
Malaysia, New
I
Zealand,
know.
Australia, and
It's
an
wild.
Australian station picked up, uh, you know, actually they picked
Yeah.
up one of the other songs and they're going to be playing it this week. And they sent me a message and said, hey, we're going to be playing your song this week or whatever. And I'm like, that's just
It's
crazy. And
awesome.
JR had
Yeah.
told me, like, again, I go to go back to him, like when I was, when we were first recorded the first 2 songs last year, Cold Blue Morning and I'm Not Ready to Say Goodbye. I had been doing the acoustic for years, and we did it under the name Shorter Tips Acoustic because it was a joke on my hair. and frosted tips and all that. And
Yeah.
band members used to call me that, and it just stuck. And it's always kind of been like laughing about it. Well, Jared had said, look, you know, it's all fun and everything, but I really think you should use your last name because your music's going to be going worldwide. And I really wasn't thinking that. I'm just thinking, I'm making some recordings here, whatever. I love what I'm doing. I would love to be doing this, but is it,
Right.
really going
The
to happen or
purpose.
whatever? Are people around the world going to be hearing other than people I know that live in a different country? And
Right.
now this stuff is starting to pop up in different places, and
It's
and
everywhere. It's everywhere. It's
we're
when
even
we
doing a
look at
live performance
when we look at
for a
the
station in UK in 2 weeks. So I'm like,
yeah, that's awesome. That's so
no,
cool.
this is too
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we when we started doing the live streams, the first thing I did was look at our demographics for the podcast because although I still know that for a fact we're nowhere near the numbers of the podcast because the podcast has been there for what, 10 over 10 years. So
Wow.
you have listeners that I don't even know who they are. Like they're probably not even on social media. We have listeners that come off of like news feeds. Like some people actually save our podcast on their browser and they get it just a notification through browser. Some people get it strictly from our mailing list. And then we have like a trickle down of people on different social media pages that say they listen to the podcast or discovered us first on social media and now listen. So, but what I do notice is when I look at the podcasting numbers overall, the people like where they're tuning in from, and we see what channel they're tuning in. Like if an
Oh,
episode
cool.
was heavy on iTunes instead of heavy on Spotify, we'll know that, right? We know that detail. And it'll break us down by percentages. But the thing that's most interesting is where people are and where you would think we have a heavy listenership in the US, of course, because that's the biggest music market, which we're lucky to have. But when you look at the percentages in like Africa and Spain and Italy and like people all over the world that and I do know that they're there because we get artists from there. And they say, I listen to your podcast all the time and I want to be on it. And I'm like, okay, so there's another person in Italy and there's another person in Sweden. And I do know that, and I'm hearing for people like right now we have people listening to our live stream. Hi, you guys. Just want to say hello. It's good to see y'all. um, yeah, I mean, and I go back and I look at their profiles and I follow them back. I try to anyway when you guys leave messages and I see where you're from and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. This is so interesting because
It really
it
is.
determines when I go live. And I've only really needed to figure that out just recently because I've never done live streams before on video from behind the scenes of making the content for the podcast. So like right now usually you and I would be meeting in private and then this episode would go live like in a few hours or the next day or whenever it was scheduled for. But right now we have this ability to go live. So what I'm saying is it really does matter because you have to try and capture a time zone that's convenient for a larger group of people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So as a musician, you have to think of that too in your numbers. So when you see and you look at your Spotify and it's showing you that you have demographics that are high in some countries, then you have to think of if I'm going to build a YouTube channel, if I'm going to launch on social media, oh, he just left us. Oh no. Well, anyway, what I was saying is then you have to decide at what point you guys are going to go live so that you can capture the majority of your audience and they can actually be there live with you. So let's try and fix this. Are you there with me, Greg? I can still hear him. All right, guys, hang on. We're going to call him back and see if we can connect with him again. Sometimes, we're using, right now we're using Facebook Live to bring this into you guys. And I wanted to be able to do it so that you could see what it was like on these calls and you could actually see it behind the scenes live with us before the podcast. So you're actually hearing this before it even heads to AVA Live Radio. Unfortunately, we were having this issue before. So let me just start it one more time and Let me try and get in there. I'm going to move you guys too while you're here so I can see you better. Okay. It's changing everything. All right,
So
we're back, huh?
I could hear you, but it said connecting video. I don't know what it did. I swear I didn't touch anything. But we've got gremlins in the system today, so.
All right, but you know what though? I have to call you back because the audio's out again. So hang on, I'll call you right back. We had this issue before where he could hear me, but I couldn't, or I could hear him, but he couldn't hear me. So hang on, guys. I should have called him back myself. Okay.
All right.
Let me see if it's picking up. No, not yet.
Can't hear me?
No, it's not. You're using your cell phone though, right?
Yep, using the cell phone.
Oh, man. That's terrible. Hang on. I'll try it one more
Okay.
time. Technology.
I know.
Ah.
What it's.
So you see how we go through the live show. This is how we do it. It literally, sometimes it works out the entire time, and sometimes we get like just a nightmare when it comes to technology.
All right. Can you hear me?
Nope, it's still not picking up the audio.
Do you want me
What
to
a
try the
shame.
laptop this time?
Nope. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my audio position here. And let me see if I can get this to pick up. If
The
I
funny
move.
thing is, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, but they can't.
No, how you guys, can you hear him if I put him really close to the microphone? This is going to sound so funny on the podcast. So guys, check in with me. I see the levels good, so you can just go ahead and,
All right.
and we can chat. I
right.
have to find a way to get you back on the screen though, so that people can see you. Hang on. I'll turn my video off. Okay. And
right.
that way I can put it back up on the screen. Yes, connection is not easy at all the time, but you guys can hear him, right? I just want to make sure.
Well, the funny thing is before that cut out, the audio on your end was quieter, but now it's perfectly crystal clear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so I might have missed one of your questions or something because it was like I was trying to catch it. Like I tried putting it through my speaker before, and then that wouldn't work because the laptop wasn't working right with it.
Well, they can hear you, but they can't see you.
That's okay.
I was so excited to get this on video. Oh, man. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to insert your picture so you guys can still see him. Yay. There he is.
All right.
Like I was going to do it before. But that's okay. At least I can hear you, and we can all hear you. All right. So go ahead. So what were we saying now before we were so rudely interrupted by Facebook? Thanks, Facebook. Ken.
Goodness, I know. I don't know what. I don't know what. That is one of the still lasting effects of my head injury. Is like I've got like I don't want to say attention span of a gnat. It's just if I'm talking about something,
Yeah.
and then something else comes up. I mean, it is gone. It is gone from my head, and I gotta look at someone and say, "What were we talking about?"
Wait, you have to have a head injury for that? Because that just goes on with me like often.
Well, that's the excuse that I use. I mean, it's a it was a legit medical thing. It's the same thing with like glasses. It's like I have to use them to see especially reading stuff and that. And I had 20/20 vision before my head injury.
Oh,
And
wow.
The people that like to say, "Oh, it's just old age." I'm like, no, it's not age. It's like, but
That's
it's all well and good.
crazy. Yeah, no. Listen, I don't know. I don't know if it has to do with age necessarily. Maybe we just don't get enough oxygen. Like when you were younger, you used to exercise a lot more, right? Because we didn't
Right.
work, so we had time to just do a lot.
Yes.
So it was like a lot of exercise gives you a lot more brain capacity because the air is getting up there.
Right.
So I have found that even though I'm getting older, if I increase the level of oxygen to my brain, like just do the exercise, breathe deeply when you sing, maybe even sing more often, you remember a lot
Right.
more. You become more sharp.
Yes. For me, it's like I have to make sure I can breathe well for singing, because I always try to make it difficult for myself for
Absolutely.
making big. That was a big thing when we were writing Sunshine Smile. I said to Jr. Because my guitarist Ryan, I'd already had some stuff like lyrically in mind that I was going to use, or where it was kind of like go around, but I had told him the same thing like I put in there. I was like, I said, I want people to hear this and think, man, this guy's really hurt and really upset and ticked off and that.
Yeah.
And so Ryan starts writing this guitar part where he goes over his place and he just does this guitar riff, and I'm like, dude, that's it. And then he's like, and then we can do this for the pre-chorus, and we can do this for the chorus and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. And a week later he sends me a file with all the guitar parts, the bass, the drums, and I'm like, this just, this kicks, man. And so I told JR, I was like, I am going to need you to make sure that I do not screw myself, like when I have to sing, like belting something that's going to go too high, and it's going to be hard to sing when I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. Because I did that when I was with the hard rock band. One of the first songs that I wrote, I love the song, but I had to change the way that I sing it in a part because it just had run out of air, when we were performing it.
I totally get it. Yeah. Breathing is everything. I mean, well,
yeah.
I know for a fact when I was first learning to sing, I used to study with like so many different, like I would travel to go study with the best singing instructors in the world. Like I would literally seek out who it was, and I would like even go to California. I would go anywhere I had to learn from like the better people. And it was always back to the same thing, basically the same techniques, and it was always about the breathing. So like literally, absolutely. I think I have very good breath control at this point after all those years of traveling and then just having to do the same exercises, even though I'm paying so much more for them.
Right. I am so thankful for all my choir instructors and, teaching me to, breathing. But I know, singers to this day, well, JR, for example, it's like he has a singing coach and that. And, it's very big about taking care of, the voice and everything, which I've learned a lot of stuff from him on that as well.
Yeah.
It's so important, but breathing is just everything. We just started doing a new acoustic song, not one of ours, it was a cover song. And after running through it the one time, Ryan's like, would you want me to lower the key on it? And we tried doing that, and I was like, and so when I saw him again this past week, and I was like, no, I said, it's not changing the key. I said, I can hit it. I just have to. No, the song is, I think it's Someone You Love by Louis Capaldi. And you get into, there goes this part where he starts singing really high. So he goes higher, and then he drops down for a few words where he goes lower, and then jumps back into high. And I just have to try and learn, like, okay, I got to take a deep breath right in between these words right here.
Yeah. Map out the breathing. It's real stuff. I mean, all these little techniques are really, they make or break your performance. But, the good thing is that I always thought of it this way. As much as I would struggle with maybe a reach on a song and when a song's new, I always knew in the back of my mind that singing is a muscle. So like eventually you will get to the place where you're just doing it just the right way and it's just the right sound. And then once you get it, you can get back there. And then it's just a matter of repetition, and then all of a sudden that becomes easy and it becomes your thing. But it all has to start with the breathing, because otherwise you can't access it. You don't get that much out of your voice, and then, you're kind of dead in the water from that point on.
Right. Yeah, no, it is. It's like it's just so huge for having the proper breathing techniques. And
so this is exciting, though. So you never really thought that your music was ever really going to be heard by very many people. You just did it because you just wanted to. So you had a passion for music, which is a great place to be.
That's exactly right. I had a passion for music, but I thought, not, other than like friends or anybody who, like just the immediate group of people that would go and see, like, maybe the acoustic group I was with, and they followed, like we were friends on Facebook, or they followed, the Sugar Tips page and all that, maybe those people would catch on to it. They'd hear us singing it.
Yeah.
At the and that's the thing, we're doing these things acoustically, but the studio versions are full, full band. And I want to get out to start doing that. I mean, we were actually working on that, and then the whole COVID thing happened. So we've got to,
Amazing. Yeah.
assemble.
I mean, what do you think is going to happen now? At this point, we've all been in for so long, right? And things have changed. I mean, even the way I do this show has changed so much. And in that way, it's been good because I really have enjoyed the live streams and like one of the audience members, so Peter's in the audience, and he just wrote in and said, great interview. It's so nice to learn about the background from Paddock and his music. And it's really nice to see that real-time comment that we wouldn't get usually through the radio show. I would have to receive it afterwards, which would be just a message, right? It wouldn't be in real time.
Fantastic.
That to me is a change that really has come about only from COVID and been a really great game changer for us and for me doing the show too, and for you. That part's good. But where do you think this is going to go? Because we've all been in for so long, and now that they're opening up, spikes are happening. So at what point is it going to change for musicians, or do musicians have to change?
I think it's going to be a combination of both. I mean, musicians are going to have to change. I don't know what we're going to come back to because I already know one of the venues that we performed at.
Yeah.
Just announced a couple days ago that they're not reopening, and there's a lot of good people, and they were like, happening. We played there once a month. We were there every first Friday of the month.
Yeah.
And it's like you go in and there's like, it was really cool that like seeing all the people who come in, but then the people that are there, and it's like, and that's gone, and so. I know there's going to be more, and then you're going to have the rules. Like here in Michigan, we don't know. They've created zones because Detroit was one of the highest hit areas with the with cases, and both in cases and in deaths in the state of Michigan. And really, Detroit itself, I mean, it's lost its population over the last several years. But I always wish that they would be able to include. Like Detroit's in Wayne County, and then you have Macomb and Oakland, and they call it the Tri-County area, because what happened is people started moving out of the city and they were just settling out in the suburbs. So really the population around here makes up the majority of the state of Michigan. So when you look at a map, like our governor broke the state down, I think like in 8 districts or something like that, and certain ones are being allowed to open stuff up starting this past week. And Detroit in our area is going to be the very last. I mean, they're listed zone 1, and we're going to, that's all just going to be very slow. And I don't really know if we're going to get very much opportunity to perform at all this summer. I mean, they're canceling festivals and
everything. Everything is canceling.
Casinos, I was like, okay, when they close churches and casinos, this is serious, and
Vegas is closed. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I never thought I would see that.
Vegas shut down. It's like you see, like during the NFL draft, I was watching that, and it was supposed to be in Vegas this year, and they kept showing footage of people downtown, and it was like one person walking around or whatever it was, and I don't even know what that person was doing, but I think, like, I've seen so many different ways of people performing these live shows and everything. Online, doing the live streaming and all of that.
Yep.
And them having the big ones, and then you see, like, if you watch any of the talk shows, sometimes they've had some Maroon 5 do Memories, and you had Adam Levine in one spot singing, and then the 2 other guys that were playing on it were jumping in. I think they were using Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
But I also look at it this way, that we're human beings, and human beings like really have interaction is that's part of our nature.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a way that it will be figured out for us all to come back together. I couldn't imagine that we're not going to have stuff where we're going to have big concerts. I think for the next several people are starting to get, as people made it, it became a reality to them that, wow, this is really happening. Like, you go out and there's just like everything's just like a ghost town, or not being able to, run up to the grocery store that's a 24-hour grocery store, and you go there at 8 o'clock at night, and it's like, nope, they're closed. I just think that eventually, well, once the vaccines and the better testing, all that stuff that I keep hearing about or reading about, once they get their handle on that. But they're just preparing us for this could be longer. My big fear is like you were talking about the spikes. Everything starts to go and we start getting things going back again. And then all of a sudden they're like, yep, the numbers are too high, and then they shut everything back down again. I think that's going to be it might be a morale breaker a little bit, but
I mean, there's different ways. There's different ways to look at it. Even before COVID, the musicians that I found were getting the biggest success had two ways to be successful. And one was they would crowdfund from their fan base. Then they would make the album. They would take the album on tour. They would go see their fans on tour, and they would sell the merchandise, sell the albums, and then put the money back into the band to make more music. But then they would start the crowdfund again. So they had this cycle where gigging was involved and the tour was involved. But you could easily replace the tour with live streaming, and then you've got a situation where you can live stream during the process of making music. You can live stream at any time, really, and you can still social distance. The band can come into the studio, the band can come into a rehearsal hall, and you can still stay several feet apart. I mean, for that matter, IK Multimedia just came out with this wristband that beeps or tells a musician if they're too close to somebody else. So literally, if you're on stage, can you imagine we're all wearing these little devices? Yeah, they have one. They have it looks like a watch. It kind of looks like an Apple Watch, but I don't think it tells time. I think all it does is the one function, which is to tell another musician, like, you're too close to your buddy. So back the heck off,
They're gonna match that technology up with like the the dog training collar, so that they go out of the invisible things. I just saw a video the other day where some man and some woman took a video of it, and the lady put a shock collar on, and they were like a McDonald's drive-through, and the guy would press the buttons as she was trying to make the order as she was getting the food. It is the funniest thing, like literally laugh out loud.
The shock collar is a good idea, actually.
So for musicians, I could just totally see. And I would be the idiot that would purposely try to get the other person shocked because of,
Totally. That's going there. It's going there next. If they put a shock. Man. So, there's probably a no tone vibration on the watch, but they didn't think of the shock. That'd be hysterical. Oh my gosh.
Think about the way some of the musicians, like how Mick Jagger was on stage and everything.
You can't see, but I'm like tearing now. That's a funny thought.
I mean, there's so much that even I've had people ask me, like, because the music that we just put the EP out. I just released it in mid or late March, but I've had some people saying, I'll buy your CD when it's out, or wanting CD, and I'm like, right now I don't have CDs because for one.
Yeah, but I think that means I'll download your CD. Like I noticed a lot of people tell me whenever I get around to launching more music, they're like, let me know where to get it and I will buy it, but like it doesn't necessarily mean the physical CD. I think when they just say they're going to buy it, they're just going to buy whatever it is that you put out in front of them with a price on it. Exactly. All right, if it's this, then I'm taking this. But it's about support. And I think that's the other thing that we're going to see happen is things are going to be a lot more intimate. Maybe the lack of being able to gig and communicate with your bandmates is going to make room for this streaming communication with fans and the ability for fans to support. Because what I've noticed is because people are so still and because they're really dependent on musicians to hit live streams in order to see them and to interact with them now. So when you do hit a live stream, I find that people are more receptive to want to do things for you and with you as a musician to support you because they know what you're going through, it's just a matter of the musician to make it available. I think that's a change we're going to see moving forward.
I wish I would have used more live streaming when I was in England and I was recording back in the fall. Because I get paid like out of pocket for. So on the EP, there's 6 songs, but one of the songs is a full version of a song, and then the final song on the EP is just a piano acoustic version of the song. So there's 5 songs total. So 4 of them were, just paid out of our own money. But I wanted to do this 5th song because my nephew was going through, he was battling a form of colon cancer, and I really wanted to do this song for him, but I'm like, I don't have the money to do this right now. And so then I talked to JR about, because I know he's done the crowdfunding thing before.
Yeah.
And so I got his advice on that, and he kind of gave me some ideas of what to do. Because the thing is I didn't have, like, JR can send autographed merchandise, he can sell these different albums and everything like that, and I'm starting from a point of, I'm like, I'm Greg Paddock, like, who's going to really want, like, how am I going to do this? And there's a lot of generous people who jumped in and helped to help us fund that song to get that made and have it on the and then so that at that point then we're like, all right, well, we can put out an EP now.
I'm going to jump in really quick because you touched on a little point, and I want to bring it up for our audience, because a lot of people, 100% of the time, musicians feel the same way, and they say, who's going to want to help me make music? Right. Who's going to want to support it? And let's just touch on it, because first of all, if you're crowdfunding and you're just starting, right? They say that you don't really do the crowdfund, you don't set it up in the beginning knowing that you're going to completely hit your goal. It's going to be a pleasant surprise, and probably you're going to want to have the crowdfund in the beginning available but extended. So you're going to build it not really to close down quickly because you don't have enough. You're going to be using the crowdfunding as a conversation to have with fans who do find out about you, and at that point in time you're able to get them on board with you. So that's the premise behind when you crowdfund in the beginning. But then over time, that builds up. And as you run into more and more people that want to support you because they love the music that you're making, they will look to that crowdfund to connect deeper with the artist. And that's where the royalties and all of the special packages really matter. So the crowdfund isn't necessarily about asking for money. It's more about providing the fans that do want to become super fans the ability to do that, the ability to get a reward for getting on with you early. And that reward doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It could be digital downloads, and that's it. It could also be live streams, like early access to live streams. You could do a Facebook group where you live stream and it's only for the people who support your music,
Yes.
There's so many things you could roll out that aren't necessarily physical, but they are rewards for people who do want to be super fans and want to hear like episodes like this where they would never know that you were able to interview and have this moment with you if you didn't let them know. So to get on your mailing list, it's a $5 donation and you support the artist. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff like that you allow people to have access to. It's not as much asking for money as it is just setting up something where you can define the super fans from just the regular, people that are bouncing in and out of things. And as an artist, from my perspective, I really like stuff like that. Like, I tend to pay more attention to the people who show up to all the live streams and the people who tag me in things and the people who involve me in things. That's the same thing as a crowdfund. Those are the people that you give the most attention to, and it's a way for you to define them and allow them to stand out. And I think that's a good point to really retrain the musician's mind about that crowdfunds aren't really asking for money. They are a way to define the super fans and allow them to get rewards from you. You know what I mean? And be treated special.
Because that's something I had to learn.
Yeah, it's a big thing. It's a conversation that everybody has in the beginning until they crowdfund and they understand it. And usually the crowdfund becomes in that mindset like 2 years after they start crowdfunding and almost give up. They're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
You're so right though. I mean, because it's like, and that was one of the big things. Is it's like, okay, if I don't have like this catalog music or autograph stuff and everything, what can I do for people or whatever? And like you said, I mean that's the stuff that's key to it. And I had to learn that. And again, I had a good um, somebody really good that was experienced with that to help guide along and, to kind of navigate that. And I'm still
Yeah.
learning, um, different things that I can do to get the music out there, or how we can, because I do want to. You had mentioned something about like the musicians that like they're crowdfunding and then they go out and they tour and then they
Mm-hmm.
take the money and they reinvest it into more music, and really that's all I'm thinking. And other ideas I have, so I'm like, maybe we can do some cover tunes of some stuff that people like, and
Absolutely.
give them opportunity, like they're the only ones that they're going to get their hands on this music.
Huge. Or acoustic
So
versions. Even, I mean,
exactly,
yeah, it's
yes,
just,
exactly,
it's so simple.
yeah,
It's even
yeah,
like maybe a night. I mean, I can show you the streaming technology we use to live stream, and you can literally like set up a group page or a Facebook page just for, your biggest supporters, just to allow them to have access. and
that would be
and it's
fantastic.
just so simple, it really
Yeah,
is. It's just how you organize it and how it's presented. I just actually saw messages. One, I want to say hi to K Ferrari. Is that it? Hi there. It's nice to see you. And also Peter said, Paddock, when you go live on Facebook, I'm in for sure.
all right, awesome, thank you, Peter.
I'm in too. I'll be there.
That's so awesome for you guys to be joining us too. That's it's just amazing when you think about it. It's like I'm sitting here in Detroit, and you're in Canada, and
Yeah.
and
Here
then
we
the other
are.
people are other side, like
Everywhere, right?
it's
Like
the world, yeah, and
all
and
over
we're
the
just
globe. I know.
we're all
And
joined
even
in here, and
in the
it's
next
I just
24 hours, because we're live streaming on Twitter right now, aside from we're going to launch the episode later, right? And it's going to go on the radio broadcast, which is like 10 different channels and all the mailing list and all that. So they're going to listen. But then there's a whole bunch of people, hey, Twitter, you guys are going to get to see this on Twitter. And then we may as well launch it on YouTube too, because it's a video. So, hey, YouTube,
yeah, and it's
I'm
fantastic.
in to
It's
put it
like that
everywhere.
goes on to all of my
Yeah,
Twitter and my YouTube and Facebook,
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
it's amazing to be able to do that and get that stuff out there, because
powerful. It's so
I've
powerful.
always loved. I love singing. I love performing, and it really. I can never say it enough. Like when people even if I connect with one person on the music,
Yeah,
that's what I want to. That's what I'd like to do. And when I write stuff, while I'm writing stuff, or the stuff that I've put out so far, everything has a personal story behind it. To myself, and there are things that I've experienced, or for the most part. I mean, there's some stuff that's written in there where I just had ideas for other songs. I'm like, oh, I'll put this in there because I think this will fit with the mood of the song. And the thinking behind it, the thought behind that is that someone's going to hear this and think, wow, I was that low one time, and that's what I was going through. Or when I wrote the song that I had wrote when my dad passed away, I'm Not Ready to Say Goodbye. When I wrote that song, I did it as tribute to my dad. I did it as a tribute to all the people that were there for us when he passed away, but also kind of keeping in mind, well, I mean, it was also my own therapy, because I literally wrote a lot of the words right after he passed away, and there was stuff that was in my head, and that's how I coped with it. But there's people who've heard the song now that even if they didn't know us and they heard this at an acoustic performance, and they're like, hey, that's, I just lost this family member or whatever. Or there's this woman that did a review on the album. When I was talking to her after she'd listened to this, and we were we're interviewing her, she was doing it for this article that she was writing, and she had referred to I'm Not Ready to Say Goodbye. She's like, I tear up every single time that I hear the song. She had a little bit of background on it, but just like you think you've lost somebody dear to you,
yeah,
so if somebody connects on stuff like that, or I see people out when we are performing the songs acoustically, then I'm thinking, all right, this is worth it, because I mean, there's people that think, okay, I'm going to go into music and be a rock star and make all this money and everything, and I don't do it for that reason. I do it because I really love singing, and I really love writing music, and I like doing something. I'm a people pleaser, and I like to make people happy. And Ryan, my guitarist, I mean, Brian is so technically sound and such an amazing musician, and he can come up with stuff that's just absolutely brilliant. I mean, so it's really cool that my music life really changed when I started working with Ryan. Ryan and I have been working together for a couple of years now, and he's just absolutely brilliant. And like I said, we're two different. If he was sitting here right now on this call with you,
Yeah.
because it happened one time, we were on a radio station in Traverse City last year, and we're doing the interview, and then we'd talk, and then we would play one of the songs. And at one point, the DJ said, "Ryan, you don't say very much." And Ryan looks at me and goes, "He says enough for both of us."
Yeah. He sounds
So
like
it's a
a really good and inspiring music partner for you. And that's important
oh,
too.
absolutely.
It makes it so much fun, because like if you can pair up with someone who does what they do well and actually teaches you in the process too, and that you respect and you totally get, and that gets your sound, gets your music, that's like ultimate. That's like the best collaboration ever. It's hard to break apart.
It truly is. It truly is. I mean, his mom and dad are so supportive. They're there like at our shows, and they've become, it's like they've all become family.
Yeah.
To me, they were there for me when my dad passed away, and Ryan and I had been working together about 6 months at that point. And honestly, I can remember being at the funeral, and, we're talking to all these different people who were coming in and out and everything. And it's overwhelming because there were so many people there, because my dad was just a very well-loved, popular person. And all the people he touched in his life, that showed up there. But when I saw those three there, it was like, it was hard not to break down, because I was just like, it meant the world to me that they were there. And Ryan and I had an acoustic performance. We were playing outdoors. This was during the summer that year, and we got done, and I went home. And about an hour after that, I got a phone call from my mom, that we had to get to the hospital, and we weren't expecting my dad to pass away. And so I had to cancel one of our shows like a couple days later, and it's like the only time we'd canceled a performance. And so then a couple days after, we had another one, and Ryan's like, you don't want to do that one on Sunday, it's totally fine. I'm like, no, I need to get back to singing. But the fact that he was, that good about it, and there's a girl that he works with that, he went to school with, who's a singer, and they do acoustic stuff sometimes as well. And she was there, and I was like, hey, do you want to have Allie go up and sing these couple songs? He's like, yeah, I figured you might not want to sing them today. And it was like, one of them was Stop the Strain from John Mayer. And it's like, you listen to the words of that, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
man.
Can't hold it together.
Song. So
Oh,
like,
yeah. No, of course. Wow. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. It's still, it's still to this day, I can't, it's like, it just doesn't seem real. But everybody goes through it, and it's still just trying to think, like, I'm like, oh my God. And even the songs, like, when I hear these songs played, it dawns on me, I'm like, my dad never heard these.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't know that he didn't. You don't know that he didn't,
right.
He could be.
Yeah, there's a different way.
He's probably looking down on you every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because there's definitely been some things where I've been like absolutely, blessed. And it's funny, people have said, they're like, well, why don't you write about something? When are you going to write about something happy? And it's kind of funny.
When you're ready. Yeah, you got to you got to be truthful with your process. So whenever it comes.
Exactly. And Sunshine Smile, there's lyrics that are in there that I actually took for a song that I was writing for somebody or about somebody, and all these things that I adored about this person. And then after what had happened, it's like, sometimes there's things that you want to say that you don't get to say, or you want someone to how bad you really hurt me type thing.
Yeah.
And instead of like, I love this about you, it's like, to hell with this, or to hell with your thing that I adore about you, kind of like that. And that was actually, I took those words from this other song and put them in there because it helped me at that time. I really wanted to capture, it's not like I'm sitting there trying to write something nasty about somebody. That wasn't the intention of doing that. It was, one, I wanted to feed off of all of that hurt and everything, and I wanted it to translate into the song, especially with what Ryan had wrote musically for that. I'm like, well, I got to really make sure that I up my game, and that I've got some, rocking song that, like people hear it and they're like, yeah, screw you, or yeah, I've been, I've been
Well,
there.
music,
And
it's therapy. Like
it
the musician,
really
first
is.
of all, you're given the gift. I truly believe that musicians are given a gift to be able to to say the things that nobody else can say. Like your listeners and the people who will seek and enjoy certain songs, they're feeding off of that energy that you're telling their story. You're putting
Yeah.
words to it, and to some, I don't know if if you remember a time when you've really been through a lot, or you're going through a lot of pain, and you hear a song that connects with you. Sometime it just relieves your soul in such a wonderful way.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what musicians are given this gift for, because it's not easy to write songs. You don't just, I mean, you can't just sit down and say, I'm going to write a song today and it's going to connect with people. This is a
No.
gift. This thing is an inspiration and a gift. And for you to have passion to take that gift and move it forward into something that's tangible, that can actually affect people's lives and help people, that's a big deal. It's
And that's
an,
exactly what I want to do. That's what it's all about for me. It's
yeah,
like want to connect people. I want to give them something where it does something like that for them, because I know that music's always done that for me. I mean, even
yeah,
when I'm performing acoustically, and I've had people like say, like, man, you're so passionate when you're singing. Like even when you're doing like the acoustic thing, it's like, because what I do is a lot of times I'll channel into something that either has made me happy or angry or whatever, and I put it into it. So it's like I don't want it to just sound boring, and I'm up there like just everybody listen to my voice. And I
yeah,
was like, no, I want people to,
to
I don't care
connect
if
with
there's
it.
two or three people there. I want
Yeah.
them to like really enjoy what they're hearing, and go like, wow, I really felt that,
I've
and
always
I love
thought
it.
that, when you do your job correctly, whatever song, whether it's a cover song or you've written the song, if you connect with that song, and you're truly inspired by it, and you connect with it from a place where you've actually experienced it, I feel like that moment in time when it reaches other ears is that one moment where, without having a conversation, you're really having a very important conversation with that person. And
Absolutely.
it's a conversation that can be healing, and that's what's so important. And that's why, as musicians, you have to constantly strive to do your job as well as you can, because if those inflections in your voice don't come across, or if you're not really caring about the words, or you lose your passion for it, that connection stops right there, and it no longer provides the service that it was meant to provide for the audience. So it's really important. It's very, very important what you're talking about, that all happens, because
Yeah,
that's the service that it's meant to provide, and that's the comfort that it gives.
and that's why I always want that to come across. I mean,
Yeah.
when we were recording like the vocals, I I didn't have any problem like just standing up to it. I always worried when I was going to start recording something like, oh man, is this going to translate? Like when you're singing live, as opposed to standing in front of a microphone and you're just sitting there trying to put it down. So it's like I try to make sure that it's like I can remember what it was that inspired me when I wrote that. I mean, I remember when I was singing I'm Not Ready to Say Goodbye, there was one time where I went to go through the lines, and all of a sudden I just like almost started bawling my eyes out while I was singing it.
Oh, yeah.
And then some other ones where it's like I want to get that intense feeling in there or whatever, and I didn't have any problem doing that, because I just kind of put myself in those shoes of like, all right, what do I want people to feel, or what am I feeling right now? And it's not like I had to like a method actor go and, yeah, where I know method actors or whatever, I've heard them say like they'll think of something, like if they had a scene where they had to cry, and they'll think of something that really hurt them or whatever, or,
Yeah.
really upset them, to do that. And so it's like kind of doing that and being right on the edge when you're singing it, because I really wanted that to come through in the performance on there. So it's like, and I had a great producer to make sure that some of those things were being hit as well. So
Well, you've done a great job, and I'm really looking forward
thank
to
you so
so much
much.
more. Now that we're connected, and we're like in each other's musical lives here.
I know.
you
I
know?
absolutely love the fact that you were sitting and reading through that stuff when you had the song playing, and you're like, oh my God, you're like, we could talk musicians for forever, and it's like we totally could. I mean,
Totally.
and you've already, connected me on to other songs, and I also I absolutely love that you appreciated the Superman photo, because being the dork that I am, when I saw that phone booth, I'm like, oh my God, I know what photo I want to take of this.
It's such a great photo. Oh my gosh, I wish I had it here like right now so I could show you guys. I can't. I don't have it. Where is it? Is it on Reverb Nation?
Yeah, it's on Reverb Nation. The photo would be in there, yeah.
Oh wait, I'm just gonna go to Reverb Nation so people can see it.
I mean, it's so funny. Like my friend, we were. She had not been to the village that I was at, and I met her while I was there. It's a really good tour guide. It was like, got to see a lot of cool things in England, because I ended up not coming home when I was supposed to. I canceled my return flight and stayed longer, and had actually planned on staying even longer than that. But so I got to see all the sightseeing, and I was like, all right, I got this photo that I really want to take, and I needed someone to be able to take it for me. And so we filmed a video for one of the songs as well. And the town hall that we were filming the video in is like this old village town hall. The booth was outside of that. And so Ryan, I pointed out to Ryan, and Ryan's like, I'm like, I gotta come back here someday and have you take a photo of me. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And Ryan left and came back to the States before me, so I was able to get someone else to go with me. Thank you to my friend Rach for taking that.
That's awesome.
Indulging me on that.
Do you still have that T-shirt?
What's that? Yeah, oh yeah, that T-shirt. I should have worn it. I didn't know that we were
doing
like a
love that T-shirt. It's great. It's so like great.
My favorite T-shirt. And like I said, that was my first tattoo that I ever got, was the Superman tattoo, and I got it.
Oh man, you have a Superman tattoo?
I do. It's on my upper left arm, and the funny thing behind that was Spider-Man was always my number one superhero, but I always really loved Superman too. And when I was going to get my first tattoo, I had already been out of the house for a few years, and my mom was always like, "No, you're not getting tattoos." I wanted to get one since I was a teenager, and they weren't the big thing then. So when I got it, I wasn't living at home anymore, and I had to make it kind of smaller and put it on my upper left arm. And that was at Christmas, like 6 months after I got it, or a few months after I got it, and I showed it to my dad, and he's like, "Hey, Joyce, come here, take a look." And I'm like, "Don't tell Mom."
Don't tell.
So it's like, well, I won't ever get any. I said, this is my last one, and then a year later, I got another one, and then it, kept going. And I was like, well, I won't get it below my elbow. And next thing you know, they're below my elbow, and now she's kind of immune to it. She's like, whatever.
Well, they're calling you Super Paddock now. That's your new name.
Yeah. And it's great now that I have, like, well, I don't think you guys can see me, but it's like, now that I have my glasses that I have to use.
They can see you. They can see you now.
I had to do the whole Clark Kent thing inside the thing, and I actually, as I looked at Rachel, I was like, all right, here, now take one with me taking my glasses off. But it was hard to keep my T-shirt open, or my shirt pulled open, and doing this full-on photo shoot to capture my goofy photo. And then now, if you look like on my personal Facebook page, that's my profile photo. And Rachel told me, she's like, that has to be your profile photo.
It's great.
And I'm like, all right. And I leave it up, and it's like, all my nieces and nephew and everybody in the family, they call me Uncle Goofy, and they call me that for a reason. And I just posted yesterday, or today is actually Goofy's 88th birthday, and I posted a happy birthday to Goofy on my Facebook page today.
Oh, no way. I love Goofy. He's great. Oh, my God. Yeah. All right. I got to end this there, or we're going down the Disney. All right. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you like this version of the Behind the Music episode. This is going to the radio broadcast, so if you're a radio listener, then definitely it'll be there for you. But we're going to put this on YouTube. I'll put this on, it's on Twitter now, on Periscope. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome,
Thanks for sticking with me with the technology.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of your support. And everybody out there, your support of indie artists, and I love listening to your show and all the different music and just the way you do the shows too. It's like I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to everybody getting to hear the other songs. Check out Cotswold on it's available on all the different formats. So look up Paddock and Cotswold. A lot of different songs, good stories, and anybody can have me message me if they ever want to hear a background on it.
Oh, awesome, guys. And thank you all for just hanging out with us for this last hour on the live stream. It's been really nice to have you here. It's really cool. I love it. Bye, you
This is
guys.
great.
See you later.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.